Hello, Heritage. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And as you can see, we've got Brother Joe and Sister Kelly tonight for an interview. And we are sure glad y'all came to do this with us, take time out to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, Lord, I thank the Lord for allowing me to come to Heritage Baptist Church, bring me into this church, my wife, and Brother Otwell being my pastor, and Brother Rocky being our pastor now. And it's been a wonderful, glorious journey, and I just want to thank you for that.
All right.
That's it. Let's go.
What? No, sit down.
What?
He ain't done yet. We still got to do the interview.
Oh, okay.
But we really do appreciate y'all taking the time to do this and faithfulness, so many years faithfulness. Brother Joe, tell us about where you were born and raised, and if you'd like, give us your kind of overview of your journey to Heritage.
Heritage journey, okay.
Yes,
I was
sir.
born in Kansas City, Missouri, 56. And when I was 2 years old, we moved to Lee Clare, Iowa, which is famous right now for the pickers. My mom's house is 5 blocks from the American pickers, so
Yeah.
it's about 6 blocks from the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go to the river a lot and stuff like that. And I went to school down there, Pleasant Valley High School. Ended up I graduated June 6th and started working at J.I. Case building bulldozer parts and for June 18th. So I worked there for about 10 years or so, and then they shut the plant down. So I was doing jobs in and out, you know, and I got a job working underground construction in Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, it was in 1982 or something like that. My brother lived there, so it was really easy. I lived in his basement. That's where I started doing underground construction. That's how I learned that. And then that played out. Then we moved back to Davenport. Back then, it was Iowa. And then a buddy of mine called me. I think it was in April. See, the ground gets frozen up in there. You can't do no work underground construction. So he called me. We used to work together. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Not much." He said, "You working?" He said, "No." He goes, "Well, you want a job?" I said, "Yeah, I guess." He goes, "You want to move to Texas?" And I said, "Okay." So I packed. I had a real little red truck, the Red Mule, 4-wheel drive Ford, and all I had in there was a bunch of tools and a bed, and I drove to Texas. Started working in Tomball. I was living in Tomball, working in New Caney. We moved up around Dallas, worked around there, around Fort Worth, and then. But when I was in Omaha, I used to go to Brother Sullivan's church, and this is the church that got padlocked by the state for not giving his school state approved.
Mm-hmm.
So that got me where I knew, because then my brother got me introduced with the the government, the Constitution, stuff like that. The things about I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't understand what it was. So I started reading a lot, and then I moved down to. I was living in Dallas or Fort Worth, and the buddy of mine, he decided he was going to go back to Iowa. So he left me up there, left me down here, and then I'd met Kelly, and so we were together there. And one night we were sitting around, and I was talking about the government, and all this stuff. We was partying a little bit, and I don't even know why I said it. And I said, Jesus Christ is the only one who can save this nation. And these people were like, "Oh yeah, So I said, "Kelly Jo, how come they don't care?" She goes, "Why don't you just stop talking about it and do something?" So, but I got mad. So I left. I just walked out. I walked about, I don't know where it was, about a half a mile or so. And I got underneath this tree, and I fell on my knees, and all I said was, "Lord, help me." That's all I said.
Wow.
I didn't know what to say. I was mad. I was crying. And the next day, I was reading the paper, and it said, Brother Otwell, pastor, is in trouble with the state. So I called Brother Otwell and said, "Hey, read your article here." He goes, "Do you know Brother Sullivan from Louisville? What was that? Nebraska? Yeah." He said, "Yeah." He goes, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." So we talked a little bit. He says, "Well, come on over, So we talked. I was going to another church at another time. They wanted me on the baseball team, so they liked me. So I went to Brother Owl's church, and we had Nicholas and Amber, and that was the Brother Owl's church. That was the boring church. This other church, that was the fun church because they had a bunch of play stuff, So, and then, it's part of my salvation testimony was I was going there back and forth. I was going to this church and going to his church. One day I was in the men's Sunday school, and I asked him. I goes, "What about this Brother Otwell over here?" He goes, "Oh, we don't agree with that." He goes, "What's the problem?" He said, "They said I think you need to go to the youth Sunday school. You don't need to be coming here." I said, "What?" I said, "What, man?" So I didn't understand that at all. So then the more I got with the Brother Otwell, that's when he's fighting with the boys' home. And one day he was preaching on being a hypocrite. I don't remember the song. I don't remember. I just remember him preaching on being a hypocrite, and all the eyes closed, heads bowed. He goes, "Any hypocrites in here?" And I raised my hand.
Oh my!
Yeah, I remember. And I think there was 5 people that went down front that day, and I said, "Lord, I'm a hypocrite. I wanted a cake and eat it too, and you can't do it." And that's when I got saved.
Hallelujah.
It was June of 1986.
Wow.
So that's my story to the heritage, and then
that's great. That's great. I mean, what a story how God moved you down and got you.
Yeah, there's just
saved you. What a blessing.
Yeah,
that's good. Sister Kelly, you give us your kind of where you were born and raised, and then overview of your journey up to.
Was born in Geneseo, Illinois, raised in Geneseo, Illinois, and actually Jocelyn, Illinois first, then back to Geneseo, Illinois. Then I moved to Texas shortly after I think I was 21. Me and Amber moved to Texas, and we lived here for a couple years before I met Joe. And mutual friends kind of really brought us together. And when he started going to the churches and stuff like that, I wouldn't go to church because I was, my grandfather took us to church as we were growing up. On my dad's side of the family, everybody was Catholic. On my grandpa, just my grandpa, he was more Methodist. And so we went to church up until I think when we moved back to Geneseo, I was in 6th grade. And it was real hard for him to come pick us up because at that time, church is boring. We don't want to go anymore.
Right.
We have our own lives. So that's basically how that went, and I grew up not being in church.
Right.
Then when I got down here to Texas, I was here a couple years. Then Joe come. We met. He started going to Brother Otwell's church. And I really didn't understand all of that, what was going on, because it was church every night. And I said, "Well, are you going to a Catholic church? Because they go to church all the time." No, it wasn't Catholic church. And then he started coming home and saying, "Sister this and brother that." And I was like, "Are you sure you're not going to a Catholic church? Because I don't know no sisters and brothers unless they're Catholic."
That's right.
So anyway, he had asked me to come to church a couple times, and I decided I was going to go to church. I had gotten upset with him about what he said, and things had changed for him in his life. And he was going, at the time we were living together, and Brother Rocky is the one that actually told him, "You can come move to the boys' home," he said, "because you're living in sin. Now you're saved and some things need changing in your life." Well, I had no idea what that was about. And it upset me that he was just going to, after a year, just pull out and leave. And so I went to the church at a night service. He was supposed to come, but he had to work. And I got under conviction for sure because, of course, all the preaching, there was 2 or 3 preachers that night, and they all preached on the same thing, living together and how wrong it is. And so I snuck in the back and I snuck out the back real fast. Well, then the next night he was supposed to come and meet me there. Well, he didn't get off work, so I just went ahead by myself. And when I went to leave that night, Brother Gary caught me and told me, "You need to bring Joe back to church. Y'all need to come together." So it was a couple nights after that, we come to Sunday church, and we wound up going to talk to Brother Outwell about getting married. Well, at that point, Brother Outwell was pretty sure I wasn't saved, and he was correct. And but I didn't understand anything about salvation,
Right.
and nobody had really spoke to me like he was trying to speak to me.
Right.
And so he just told Joe that I can marry you, but it will be a little tough living in a house divided. Well, of course I was upset because I thought he didn't like me. Sometimes the truth hurts. And so we left that Sunday, and Joe had to work a couple more times the next week. And we made it back to church on a Thursday night following that Sunday. And after church, we went up to Brother Outlaw and told him we wanted to be married. That was it. We were getting married. We needed to be married. And so Brother Kelly was standing on the porch, and Brother Outlaw called for Brother Kelly to come in, and we went into the office and we got married. Well, when we got married, I had already been talking to like Debbie Anderson and Kathy DeFore, people like that were kind of set in the church at that time and helping out with the boys' home and things. Anyway, they seen us after church go up to Brother Outlaw, and they kind of knew what was going to happen. So when we got married, there's like this big picture window, and everybody's outside the office, which we didn't see. And so it was just Brother Outlaw, Brother Kelly, Joe, and myself. And when we turned around and he pronounced us man and wife, everybody from the church that was there was outside.
Wow.
They had gotten rice, and they were throwing it and everything. So it was pretty special. It was very unique for sure. Right. So, yeah, that's pretty much how we got married. And then we decided we were going to move to the boys' home because we wanted to live closer to the church. So we had a place to stay there for just a short time. And so the next day we brought all that we had and we moved over to the church. Well, every morning I would sit outside the office because Joe would go to work, and I'd talk to Misty Four and Debbie Anderson. And this one young boy, I think his name was Joshua, he'd been staying with another church from Austin. And he was 8 to 10 years old, and that every day he'd come out and talk to me on the porch, and he'd sit there and ask me about salvation, and he would tell me all the time, he goes, you know hell's real, you know hell's real. And I was like, what is wrong with this kid? Telling me hell is real and what's about my salvation. Well, he was staying in the dorms with his mother, and a bunch of other ladies with their kids were staying in these dorms, and he prayed for me every night. And then we got married on a Thursday, and it was like, sorry, a whole nother week later on a following Monday, we got married on July 17th, and a whole nother week later, that Monday night, we had a church service, and I seen your mom, Miss Kay, and I said, I'm not saved. She goes, oh, yes, you are. And I said, oh, no, you don't understand. I am not saved. It was after church. She goes, well, then we need to go to my house and pray. So we went over to your house, and we prayed about it and everything like that. And I come out of the house and just felt so much better and relieved. And that little boy was so happy. He was just screaming and yelling how happy he was. And his mom come and told me, she goes, he's prayed for you every night. He's been worried about you.
Wow.
So that was pretty much it.
Isn't that amazing? So it's a good reminder, young ones, that you can be the one God can use. That's a blessing. Isn't that amazing? So you say he's about 8, you remember?
He was 8 to 10 years old at the time.
That's amazing.
But he had good raising. He had parents that were totally, and now from when Miss Thompson come last time and I talked to her about it, he's in the mission fields and is in Mexico. And she knew exactly who I was talking about when I said it, because he had done it all his life growing up. He was always witnessing to people.
Isn't that something?
So he's got like 5 or 6 kids, and they live in Mexico. And I said, what a blessing.
Isn't that something?
What a blessing.
He's still
What a
witnessing.
blessing. Sorry?
He's still witnessing.
Yeah, still witnessing. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Well, y'all, we'll back up a little bit, and if y'all want to tell us how y'all met. And I think you covered your salvation testimonies pretty well. Is there anything you
Just
wanted
through
to add?
friends.
So y'all just met through friends?
Yeah.
and then that was in Texas, so it wasn't. It was just about a year before y'all came.
Dallas, I think it was.
Yeah, Plano.
Maybe
You lived in Plano.
Plano, that's right.
So
You
it was
lived
about a
in
year
Plano.
before y'all
Yeah.
started going to Heritage there.
Right.
Well, that's something else. Well, tell us about your kids now, and if you want to talk about them a minute, and grandkids.
Oh, we have 5 children
Yeah.
and 10 grandchildren.
Wow. And grandkids.
The Lord has truly blessed us.
Isn't that something? So some interesting things. We'll get to Sister Kelly's. I didn't know some interesting things about Sister Kelly when you were sitting there talking. And I said, wow. Sister Kelly played basketball
In junior high.
in junior high and softball.
Played softball from the time I was probably 8 or 9 years old all the way adulthood.
Wow. And so a lot of softball. And then she played the
The
flute.
flute.
The flute.
From 5th grade through high school.
Tell us
First chair.
First chair.
First and second.
First, second.
First and
okay.
second.
And couldn't read any music.
And played 100% by ear.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
And yeah.
That is amazing. So I didn't know those, so I thought y'all would be interested to hear that. And Brother Joe, anybody that knows Brother Joe knows this, but if you don't know Brother Joe, you'll be shocked. But Brother Joe is a classical music lover, and it shocked me Mozart. The first time I rode with him to work, I was like, "What in the world?" I had no idea this guy would be listening to classical music. But when did you start liking classical music? When
I
got you
don't
into it?
remember.
You just liked it, huh?
I just liked it.
Isn't that something?
I just like music.
Tell us about your beehives and how long you've been doing that.
1999, I think, was the first year I actually harvested some. But what the deal was, I was reading Proverbs. I think it's 24:17. Don't quote me on that. But it said, "My son, eat thou honey because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to thy taste." So I said, well, God wants me to eat honey. So I was working down in the center. I seen a guy had signs honey for sale, So I was buying, 4 quarts of honey at a time, like, $8-10 a quart. At a time, I said, wow, okay, Then I was reading this book called Back to Basics about all the live off the land and all this stuff, and it said how to get a beehive, And it said, so I put it in the paper, thrifty nickel. So wanted, beekeeper to help me get started. The phone started ringing. It's amazing how many people would want to help you if you want to get started in bees. Just put an ad in the paper, your phone would be ringing off the hook.
Wow.
So I got with the guy down towards center, and he got me set up, got my hive. I bought a hive, and I started that, and I've had up to 13 at the time. I'm down to 3 right now. I had 5, I lost 1 or 2, and so I'm trying to build it back up for next year, but I just love honey.
It's something else.
I just gulp it.
Yes, it's good. We still have some of your honey.
It's good.
It
Some
is
of
really
it's the different depending upon the flowers and which ones. But sometimes it's light, amber color. Sometimes it gets darker. It depends upon,
Yeah.
But
We voted darker's better at my house.
is it
Yeah, that's what we liked.
okay?
That's great. That's so interesting. And actually, we've had the kids, him show to the kids about the beehives and how all that works. Very interesting.
Yeah, I
And-
brought an observation hive one time in school.
yeah, well, we need to do that again.
Yes.
Harley Davidson. Well, tell us about when you had that.
Well, I had a motorcycle before. It was a Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
So when I bought my Harley, I had got some money from this guy owed us a bunch of money, Ralph. So I had a bunch of money. So they're gonna buy me a Harley. So I bought a Harley. Had like the extended forks, easy rider looking thing, Straight pipes, loud as all. I rode at the Heritage a couple times.
Yeah.
When Chris was born, I started working with this guy in Weatherford, and I didn't need equipment, so I took it to, what's the place in between Dallas and Fort Worth?
Terrell.
No, right in between it.
Farmington?
No, right in the next one down.
Euless.
No. Anyway,
Sorry.
One of those places.
there was a Harley dealer there, and I sold it to buy a piece of equipment to work.
Oh, went to work.
I've rode him since then, but
Right.
I've never owned one.
Y'all can see Brother Joe riding the Harley.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
music to my ears, next to Mozart.
Harley and Mozart. It is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Well, tell us about your job now and what you do, and most everybody knows, but you just tell us about that.
Well, I started out doing underground construction, doing main line where you got to go like 18 to 24 inches deep, and when I started working, when I started working, doing drop berries, what I do now, I was working for a guy in Arlington. Is getting like what $5.85 an hour, getting paid every 2 weeks.
Wow.
They was struggling,
Mm.
but I did it. But I had done the underground mainline construction. I was working for this company. We had to go to Weatherford to do a bore for a guy. So the guy said, "Man," he goes, "I sure wish I could have a guy who could do this for me. I got this big old plant I need to build." I said, "I could probably do that." So the day Christmas was born, I quit that job and started working for him. That's when I started at Harley, but I sold that to buy the equipment, to start that mainline job. And then when we moved over here, I was working for a man in Nacogdoches, and that didn't work out too well. Worked out for a few months, and I was working for doing sales and installation. Where I was, installing,
Mm-hmm.
and then that played out. They decided they weren't going to use contractors anymore. So today, 2001, 2 days after 9/11, I started working for a guy in Shreveport, burying drops, which I'm doing now. And then that played out, and they heard they were rebuilding the one in Henderson. So I stopped, talked to him, and it was me and Ryan, I think. We were working like 3 days in Henderson. And he said, "Man," he goes, "can you go to Tyler?" I said, "I guess I can." So we've been there, we did like 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He was in Tyler. And the Lord just works it all out.
Yeah.
You just live by faith and trust in Him, and the dominoes just fall. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
It is amazing.
Always provides.
And you're concerned about stuff, but you don't sit there and fret and worry.
Right.
Even if things get a little tight, because things will get tight sometimes.
Right.
Like I was telling Ryan, he goes, "Man," he goes, "it's working all the time, and you never get ahead." I said, "Keep plugging, Ryan.
Yeah.
One of these days you'll have extra in your pocket."
Yeah.
But it's a road.
It's a grind too.
It's a grind, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I first got saved, I didn't care how much I was making, because I knew I was saved and I was in church,
Yeah.
and it was such a blessing. I could have been, like Brother Alva says, poor as Job's turkey, lean on the fence to gobble,
We were.
and you're still happy. I mean,
Right.
we was happy.
Yeah, we were.
We're still happy.
Yeah.
$5.85 an hour and 2 children and a pregnant wife, and we were paying rent and still had to do groceries, and I don't know how we did it.
Mhm.
I look back and I'm like, how did we do that?
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Where did the money come?
Good Lord.
34 years.
That's right.
In July.
How many? I did skip that. How long y'all been married? 34 years.
In July.
Long,
Wow.
wonderful, glorious, she says.
She says. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great. 34
Yeah,
years.
Lord, give me Kelly Jo, and she's my balance.
Yes.
She can take. She's wiser than anybody. Is you want a nurse? Nurse Durkin here. That's what I call her. That's from an old skit from the radio show.
Nurse Durkin.
Nurse Durkin.
Oh man. Well,
So
it's sure been great. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up tonight?
No? Just thank everybody for allowing
there's a
us
lot
to do
more.
this.
We could stay here for hours. We talk about stuff all the time.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
I know we do. I know
Yeah,
we do.
that's okay.
You cut her off.
Call me on. We'll talk about it.
That's all right. I'm used to
So,
that too.
I want to appreciate Brother GT and his church family, and I seen how he was raised with Brother Gary in the church, and now he's got his kids working like he used to work. And Chad,
Right.
and Scotty, and
Right.
Bradley, yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Well, we sure appreciate y'all, and thank you so much for taking the time out. And like I said, we could talk for
That's it?
a long time. What, you'd like to add anything else?
No, that's enough.
Okay, okay. Would you like to add anything else?
No, just
Well, thank
you.
y'all so much.
Appreciate it.
Sure appreciate y'all. We're supposed to be doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all saw it. We're social distancing. God bless y'all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Bye, y'all.